this is me, Daniel1000, back again with another Star Wars The Black Series figure review. Today we're going to be having a look at another figure from the 40th anniversary of Empire Strikes Back assortment of figures, Luke Skywalker in Snowspeeder gear. Just to briefly note about this assortment, it's predominantly made up of repacks and repaints with slight retools, bar this one and the Rebel Trooper in Hoth gear, which it may come as a surprise to some that this is a completely new figure. However, we'll get into that when we get into the review. So first and foremost, all these figures come in these lovely vintage styled card backs, which is very different from the Black Series boxes that we've come to know and love. As you can see here, I've taken the bubble off, much to most carded collectors' dismay, as I imagine people want to be getting these just to keep carded really, but not me. I like to let my figures breathe. As you can see, here's the card artwork. As some of you may or may not know, in the original lineup of Kenner figures, they didn't actually make a Luke Skywalker in Snowspeeder gear, so this is a complete mock-up as to what that would have maybe looked like, which I think is pretty cool on Hasbro's part. So you've got a nice image of Luke there with the Snowspeeder flying at the top. Also got the sticker up there to say that it's commemorating the 40th anniversary of Empire Strikes Back, and the logo at the bottom. Then on the back, you've got all the other figures in the wave, nearly all of which are completely repacked figures. R2-D2 is just a slight repaint. They've covered that one in a muddy wash. The Hoth Trooper is a completely new figure, which I've reviewed, as I've said. TIE Fighter Pilot is a complete repack. Lando Calrissian's just been updated with the new face technology head sculpt. Aside from that, he's just completely the same figure. And of course, as we're reviewing today, Luke Skywalker in snow gear. Got a little bio on the collection itself. No information on the actual character. And aside from that, you've just got a ton of legal garb, which is always lovely. So with the packaging out the way and done with, onto the figure itself, of which at first glance you would probably wonder there is literally really nothing too different about this figure to the X-Wing pilot. And first and foremost, you're completely wrong, because there is, because the Snowspeeder pilot gear has more of a life preserver jacket kind of feel to it. It's just got some slight little tweaks from that costume, mainly in the boots, this little additional sort of life preserver around the neck or collar of the costume, and there's some other little details, but they're the main ones that you would probably pick out. As to the differences between the costumes, nothing too major really. There's nothing to really stop you from putting that X-Wing pilot Luke into the Snowspeeder when you get it, although if you are very particular about details, this is the one that you're going to want to put in your Snowspeeder as and when it comes out. An item that I in particular am very stoked about, and fingers crossed I can get my hands on it. So first and foremost, let's just give you a little look at the figure. It does look like they've put a bit of a wash on the figure, which is always welcomed, and that just really accentuates all the creases. If I just move his arms out of the way so you can get a better look at his uniform. We've got the pipe leading into his leg there, the flight harness, the boots, the ammo pouch things that go around one of the legs of the boots, and some of the little details. And the helmet as well. I think the helmet's got some really cool weathering and detailing going on to that. And speaking of the helmet, it is removable. So that's one of the accessories this figure comes with, and if I just take that off, you can see his head sculpt there. That's one major difference from this figure to the X-Wing pilot Luke, obviously. It's the fact that the X-Wing pilot one does have his hair exposed. This one has got a cap going over that head. I would assume that's to keep him warm, given the cold climate of Hoth. So, as you can see there, that head sculpt is absolutely fantastic. Spitting image of Mark Hamill, even though you haven't really got his hairline there. The only other accessories he comes with is the lightsaber and the blade as well, which you can remove. And again, I hate doing this because, oh well, they've actually made this one quite thick, so that's a surprising thing. So it wasn't as bad as removing some of the other ones, because they usually do make them quite thin, but that's quite chunky. And the cool thing to note about the lightsaber hilt is it comes with a little plastic loop, which if you take it out of his hand, you can hook onto the hook on his belt there. So if you didn't want him wielding it, you can have it hooked onto his belt. But in terms of accessories, that's all he really comes with, which in some degrees might be a little bit disappointing to some. It would have been cool if it came with the grappling hook gun, although as far as I'm aware they are including that with the snowspeeder. But other than that, I mean, at the end of the day, what can you really give a Hoth Luke in terms of accessories? And I think the ones that they did give us is just fine. It's what's needed really, so fair enough to Hasbro on that. So with that pretty much covered, onto articulation. This figure has a ball jointed head, ball joint in the neck, so he can look even further down and even further up. It's a little bit tight on mine. I think the little collar as well does hinder it slightly. He also has butterfly joints, which really pleased they're including that with their figures now, just because, especially with characters like Luke, where you want him to have his lightsaber maybe drawn close to his chest like this, that extra joint does give you the option and ability to do that, so you can have his arms really drawn at the ready like so. Ball hinge joints in the shoulders as well, so you can move them up and down. Ball hinged elbows, ball hinged wrists, ball joint in the torso, ball joints in the hips, swivel at the top of the thigh. And then one thing that does let it down for me ever so slightly, and it seems to be a pretty standard thing Hasbro are incorporating into their figures now, ball hinged knees. And this one on this particular figure, I think, doesn't really sit as flush and isn't particularly as seamless as other figures they've done it on. It's not too bad, but I really do miss the days where they had double hinged knees. Although I think if you are going to have this displayed in your snowspeeder, as and when they release that obviously, it's not going to be a big deal. But if you did want this on display, I don't know, I just miss having those double hinged joints. But I think at this point now I'm just going to have to get used to it. We've got ball hinged ankles with rocker joints as well. So you can still get this guy in plenty of poses, and really having ball jointed knees is better than nothing. So overall, it's not a bad figure. At the end of the day, some may be saying, oh, it's another Luke again, and they're not wrong. I have a feeling this is like the fourth Luke we've had this year so far. Answers on a postcard, at least in Black Series, and particularly in this assortment of figures, we've already got a Bespin Luke, so that's 2 Lukes in this assortment of figures. I'm really somewhat split as to if this was kind of justifiable to put it on this card or not, especially given that they're re-releasing this figure into the standard Black Series packaging. I feel like the character slot could have been filled with a unique character, possibly Lobot, I don't know. Let me know in the comments what you think about that, but nonetheless, we were needing a snowspeeder pilot Luke Skywalker to go inside the snowspeeder that Hasbro's releasing this year. It's not an entirely bad pick, just for those who are getting a little bit tired of constantly seeing Lukes. Me personally, as much as it pains me to say it, it's still one that you're probably going to end up picking, I'd imagine. And everything I've said there is nothing against the figure itself, because it is a really, really good figure. But nonetheless, that's all I've really got to say about this guy. Let me know in the comments what you think, and as always, this is me, Daniel East 1000, signing out, and thank you very much for watching.